Hey, it's Ash and I'm the vegan neuropsychologist, and this video is about coping with the winter blues. So if you're in the Southern Hemisphere, then the days are getting shorter and the weather's getting cooler, and it's pretty common for a lot of us to experience changes in our mood. And for a small group of people, the changes in mood can be so extreme that we actually call it seasonal affective disorder. We have a clinical term for it, also known as SAD. And I suppose SAD is quite an appropriate acronym for this disorder because it is associated with feelings of sadness and depression. So I wanted to make this video to share a few tips in improving our well-being during this time. So a little disclaimer here is that I'm not suggesting that these tips are going to cure anybody of depression or seasonal affective disorder. I believe these disorders are multifaceted, and it would be unwise and inappropriate to suggest that there can be just this formula that you need to implement and that's going to be the cure-all for everybody. So this video is not intended to substitute for any medical or psychological advice that you may get. I do hope that it will be useful to you. So there's a couple of points that I want to make, plus just a very short commentary on seasonal affective disorder right at the end. So let's just get straight into it. And the first thing I want to talk about is our general health. Now, I know that it seems pretty obvious, and a lot of people talk about our health and well-being, our physical well-being and self-care, and I know that I bang on about self-care a lot. But I do think that we underestimate just how much our physical state actually impacts our emotional well-being. And I'll address two main things. The first is rest, and the second one is fuel. It's pretty common knowledge now that when we're tired or when we're undernourished, it's harder to be positive. When we're tired and undernourished, we tend to view the world with a more negative lens. It's harder for us to remember the positive stuff, and it becomes easier to remember the negative stuff. And this can simply be missing a night or two of sleep, or the chronic accumulation of sleep debt, which can happen over weeks, months, or even years. And from a nourishment point of view, it doesn't even need to be like full-on starvation that can cause this. It could simply be that our blood sugar is a bit low and it's time for lunch. So I think it's really important that we make sure we're addressing all of the aspects of our physical health. So obviously rest and sleep, but rest doesn't just include sleeping. Rest can simply be taking a mental break from our job, or maybe if we're a full-time parent, then just taking a mental break from the parenting role. So rest and sleep are both really important ways of improving our mental well-being. The other one, of course, is what we eat and how we're fueling ourselves. So that's food and water. So we want to make sure that we're adequately hydrated. We don't want to be drinking lots of caffeinated drinks that are actually going to drain water out of our body. We want to make sure we're eating good food that's nourishing. We want to make sure that we're covering our bases in terms of nutrients. So if you're like me and you got dark skin and you don't get enough sunlight during the winter months, then you might need to think about taking a vitamin D supplement. So I know that these seem really obvious basic things, but it's amazing just how much we neglect them, and we just think to ourselves, yeah, not a big deal, I'll just skip a meal here, or I'll just eat something that doesn't make me feel good here, or I'll just drink some tea instead of drinking water, or yeah, I'll just stay up a bit later than normal and watch something on YouTube instead of actually getting some rest. So I think it's really important that we look at all of these areas and make sure we're covering our bases, and if we notice that there's any gaps, then maybe it's time to do something about them. The second point is to engage in activities that actually make us feel good. So if we know that we're vulnerable to stress or sadness during the winter months, then we can be deliberate about engaging in the activities that actually make us feel good. So it's a kind of a way of offsetting some of the mood symptoms that we experience. So find a handful of activities that we really enjoy and really bring joy to our lives. Things that we can engage in during winter. So maybe lying on the beach isn't one of them, but there might be some other things that we can do that we find helpful during the winter months. So spending time with friends, doing some volunteer work, getting out into the fresh air, going for a walk just to move our muscles around and get the blood flowing. Any of these sorts of activities that bring joy to our lives are really important to do during the winter months. And the third one is, it's this concept which I came across last year, and I think it's pronounced hygge, and it's actually a Danish word for cozy. And this is something that I've been reading about. I've been so fascinated by, because in Denmark, they have really epic winters, so I've heard. Like, it's really dark and really cold and lots of snow, and most people spend their time indoors. There's not a lot of light, so you'd expect there to be a lot of depression or seasonal affective disorder during the winter months. But actually, the Danish seem to be doing really well in this regard, and they've got quite high levels of happiness. And this concept of hygge, it incorporates self-care, which I've already mentioned. It also incorporates this idea of doing the activities that we really enjoy and bringing them together. So it might be like having a nice dinner inside. You've got the fireplace going, or you've got some candles lit, or you've got some, really comfortable cushions on the couch. You have this nice cup of tea, or if something stronger perhaps, if you're into that. And it's a way of treating ourselves and taking care of ourselves, but we're not kind of overdoing it and not overindulging ourselves to the point of sickness or, binging or anything like that. So it's self-care plus what we enjoy plus coziness. So you can look it up if you want to learn more about it. It's pronounced hygge. I think I've pronounced it correctly, and it's spelled Hyggge. Hyggge, hygge. So look it up, and yeah, it's really, really interesting, and I can totally see why it will be helpful during the winter months. And it seems that in Denmark they're quite good at it because they've got quite high levels of happiness. So those were the three things of taking care of our health, being intentional about the activities that bring us joy, and also embracing this concept of coziness or hygge, I think is really important. But I also just want to make just a brief comment about seasonal affective disorder and the winter blues, because I actually think that maybe it has benefits. I mean, humans don't hibernate, but maybe these feelings of sadness is a way of letting us know that we need to scale back on what we're doing, because nothing in the human experience is constant. Everything is in a state of flux, in a state of ebb and flow. We cycle between sleeping and waking. We go through cycles where we're very, very active and motivated, and cycles when we're sort of more laid back, easygoing, and less motivated. It's rare to find a person who's just consistently firing at the same level all the time. And I feel like maybe seasonal affective disorder or the winter blues might be a way of signaling to us that we need to scale back a little bit. Like maybe we've been going with all cannons blazing during the summer months, and maybe during the winter months, that's time when we slow down, we simplify. Instead of jamming our schedule with lots of events and filling up our to-do lists, maybe we just scale it all back and focus on the stuff that's really important to us, the stuff that really energizes us or is really meaningful to us. So I don't know, maybe you can let me know your thoughts on this. It's something that just occurred to me recently, which is what prompted me to film this video. But it occurs to me that feelings of sadness during the winter time, I mean, perhaps there is actually an evolutionary benefit to it, and maybe it was the time that we just needed to bunker down and take care of ourselves a bit more. It's a little bit like different growing seasons when it comes to planting crops, so maybe we kind of have different cycles and different seasons that we need to respect, and the winter blues might be a sign that we need to scale back a little bit. So let me know your thoughts. I really love hearing your opinions. Leave me a comment down below, and I think that's about it. So if you got any questions for any upcoming videos, let me know as well, and I'll be back soon. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.